I'm Evan Kunai, one of your hosts. I'm here with Christopher Ritter.
Yo.
And Jordan Garcia.
What up?
This is the Moxstars
Hold on a
podcast.
second. We should actually re-record it because I was just seeing this thing about YouTube things. First 30 seconds, you can't swear. Everything after that is fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
Got it.
Here we go. Welcome back to the Moxstars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Evan Kunai, and I'm here with Christopher Ritter.
I'm trying so hard not to swear. I really wanted to do it.
And Jordan Garcia.
Hi, this is me not swearing. My name is Jordan Garcia.
We just found out we can't swear in the first 30 seconds, so we're going to keep it kosher.
What the are we supposed to do for an intro? That's where all the comedy comes from.
I don't know. We know what we can do. We can splash our how to find the channel. We can plug our.
Just go right to plugs. Zero
straight to
content,
plugs.
Right to plugs. Okay, yep.
If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by finding us on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell for more notifications. New episodes every single Friday. We also have another gameplay video coming to you soon. You can find us on all major podcasting platforms. Give us 5 stars. It goes a long way to making us look really freaking good and helping new people find the show. You can join our Discord server where we're popping off constantly. You can also join our Patreon, where if you join as a supporter, you become a Pepperhead, where you get the official Pepperhead role, Dr. Pepper Red name on the Discord, and you get access to 2 exclusive channels, the Dr. Pepper channel, where you get to experience Dr. Pepper memes all day, every day for the rest of your life.
I mean, I think it's more than memes. It's lifestyle. So think about like
culture.
Yeah, I shouldn't downplay it.
Think about like Margaritaville, R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett. Think about Tommy Bahama.
Yeah, you're selling a future.
Big Dogs brand.
Yeah. 100%.
Jeez, wow. That actually encapsulated it fully.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. You also get access to the Shower Thoughts channel, which is our community-driven content platform. Basically, people can go in there, start a conversation, and we're going to denote a portion of each episode to covering a topic that's discussed in that channel. So go ahead, join our Patreon, become a supporter, and become a Pepperhead. Today, we are covering a few things. We have a few interviews on the show today, but before that, we're going to cover our experience at the most recent tournament that Jordan and I both went to. What was it? The Fall Brawl in Issaquah, Washington at Laughing Dragon MTG, hosted by the SeaEDH community. The server, if you are nasty and you want to join that server, I'll put the link in the description below. It was a wonderful tournament. Jordan and I are just going to recap our experience a little bit, and we have one single pregame action. We're just going to briefly talk about the errata to the One Ring and Orcish Bowmasters on Arena.
2 cards we've talked about the power level a lot.
Yeah,
about
true.
Yeah,
I think it's always been the topic of conversation since they've come out.
I think, so if you aren't aware, Orcish Bowmasters and the One Ring have been running house on every single format that they're legal in.
Running train, if you will.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they've been
Just watched you fall apart.
Yeah, they're running train. Yeah. Okay,
You
so
can bleep that out of it.
No, it's fine. We're past the 30 seconds. Orcish Bowmaster reads for 1 and a black, you have a creature with flash that enters the battlefield, and when an opponent draws an additional card outside of the first one, each of their draw steps, it deals 1 damage to any target, and you amass Orcs 1. The One Ring is an indestructible artifact that when you cast it, it enters the battlefield. You gain protection until your next turn, and then you can tap it, draw a card, put a counter on it, burden counter on it, and you lose a life at the beginning of your upkeep equal to the number of burden counters on it. So, quickly, the erratas on Arena are that Orcish Bowmasters no longer has the enter the battlefield effect, which is quite a big nerf. And then the One Ring, the errata is you now have to pay 1 mana, tap it, to draw a card equal to the number of burden counter, or to put a burden counter and draw cards equal to the number of burden counters on it.
So for me, the One Ring nerf seems a lot more obvious, right? Because you're adding an additional cost to each activation there.
Yep.
The Orcish Bowmaster just losing the ETB seems like a less obvious nerf. Because the Orcish Bowmaster, well, at least in Commander, it's not doing damage on the ETB. But in other formats, is that where a lot of the takeovers happening?
Yeah, because it means whoever plays the second Bowmaster wins.
It does let you snipe the Bowmaster and not have to wait for the next draw step. Yeah, I think they're showing that they were very aware of how strong these cards were, that they've already changed on Arena.
Yeah.
Too bad you can't change in paper formats.
It's too late
after
for that.
the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. There's some like companions, I guess, are cards in paper that are
Right.
nerfed with a
But you can't just be like, yo, everybody, just make sure you pay one when you tap the ring, okay?
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I would say that these were erratas. Like the Orcish Bowmaster thing is one that I initially, in spoilers, I was like, it either you have to take away the flash or you have to take away the ETB. That was like my opinion on it, like right out the gate. And so the fact they took the ETB away from it, just kind of like, I feel vindicated a little bit to say that like, hey, I called it, I sounded the alarm or whatever. But yeah, it does nerf it quite a bit. Like,
I mean, yeah, not to mention there's combo lines just using the ETB. You know, it is now
Yeah.
one of the cleanest outlets for, you know, Hullbreaker Horror or Cloudstorm Curio loops and stuff like that. So
yeah, if like, let's say retroactively they're able to reprint this and take away that ETB effect, this is a card that probably does not see play in SeaEDH. It depends. Well, the One Ring does see play because it protects you on the full swing of turns, and everyone's playing it, and everyone's tapping it and drawing cards. So maybe the Bowmaster is still good.
yeah, I think it's still good. But
Yeah, it just doesn't
also
combo out.
the difference too is 1 of versus 4 of formats.
True.
Right.
I will say none of this matters because, again, it's printed in paper. So
Yep.
none of this shit's changing.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about the One Ring having the one activation to tap and activate is that it does put you off curve now. So it is like a lot of people think, oh, it's just a nothing, like pay one, activate, but it takes you from going from turn 4 being protected on your entire turn, until your next turn, tapping, drawing a card, untapping, drawing 2 more cards, to having to have an extra mana available to be able to tap and activate. Actually slows you down and puts you a turn back or 2 turns back potentially off of that 3 cards that you would have drawn.
Yeah.
So it is retroactively. I wish they could make these changes, make these cards a little bit more balanced. But
I almost feel
Jordan
like
said,
it should be like X tap activate where it is equal to the number of counters on it.
whoa,
Because
Now-
it's still a 1-for-1, right? Like you're
Yeah.
still paying 1 mana, draw 1 card
but you could pay 0, tap it, put a counter
on the first one.
Yeah,
So
and
you
draw a
get-
card.
Yeah. And then now moving forward, it's like every time you actually have to pay for the cards you're going to draw.
Wow.
So I don't know. But
That's-
again, none of this matters because it's printed
Right.
paper and the format's busted. So
Yep. Moving forward.
Speaking of busted formats, we just went to a CDH tournament.
Yeah. We went to the Fall Brawl hosted by Marcus in the CEDH Discord server and the CEDH community. We had a great time. Overall, we had a great time. I placed 18th. Jordan, what did you end up finishing?
15th?
15th? Yeah, so Jordan made the top 16 cut. I just missed out on it. I was playing Shalai and Halar, and Jordan was playing Najila. I think we talked about that in the previous episode, but we're here to speak on the results of that tournament and what we experienced over the weekend. First, we couldn't even get through the door before you guys swarmed us at the door. That was awesome. Thank you so much for you guys' support. It's great to see that you guys love the show and are listening. And Antonio, I'm sorry I got your name wrong last episode. I will forever be sorry.
He corrected me and I was right. So
Yeah,
Vindicated.
Jordan was right.
Vindicated.
Did you guys roll up with a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper cans?
No, but we should have, and we probably will next time. Now that you say that.
The thing is, Tordeth showed up with the Dr. Pepper, and I.
Oh, nice.
Yep. True Pepperhead.
100%.
Yep. But we had K Mr. K was there, another Pepperhead. So Tordeth, and then we also had John usable.
Shout out to
Outback.
multiple patrons being at this tournament. You love to see it. Love the support from the crew.
Yeah. And so to get started with the day, we got to get up pretty early to go to these things, and we get there and it was just a great start to the day to see everybody. And turn 1 pairings fire off almost immediately, And well, Jordan and I are together in the first pod.
This is the first time we've ever played against each other in a SeaEDH tournament. Out of all the ones we've ever gone to.
Yeah, in the first round. And so we sit down at the table, we're all shuffling up and stuff. We're talking to the two other people at the table. We lay down our freaking stellar poppin' play mats, and which are available on the Patreon now. I took down the pre-order. You can actually just purchase one now.
Oh, sick.
Oh, very
if
sick.
you just want to do that.
And we're going to have other merch forthcoming.
Yes, sir.
100%,
Yes, sir.
100%.
And so we lay down our play mats, we start shuffling up, and we're talking to the other two people at the table, and we learn that this is like their first or second tournament. And so this means that we can mulligan pretty aggressively to get what we want. We just know that
Who were the commanders, the other two?
It was really cool. The street urchin.
Yeah, it was the street urchin background, but it was Gruul pairing. I forget the name of the other part of it.
Okay.
Whatever the Gruul choose a background guy is.
Yeah.
Or the green one is. And then it was Nekusar.
Oh, okay.
So it was some interesting pairings.
Yeah.
I was on first seat. Evan was going fourth seat.
Oh, you were first seat on Nagila.
Yeah, it felt pretty good.
And Evan, you were fourth seat?
Yeah. And
on off meta? Got it.
Yeah, it really sucked.
Not only that,
Not blue?
I had a
Not blue.
I had a great hand.
Yes.
I had a great hand.
Yeah, I will say that I was probably the only blue player, or the blue player mentality was with me in this game. So I mulliganed to...
Yeah, because Nekazar can be on the stack, but I bet that guy was not.
Nekasar, turn one, mountain pass.
Basic mountain.
Okay.
So we are...
So I felt pretty good after I saw that. Like,
Yeah, I bet, man. And you're on the no bad cards version of Gila, right?
correct. Yeah. I actually I opened up with discard Gaia's Cradle, the Mox Diamond, other land, Wishclaw Talisman on turn one.
Okay.
And then just went right into turn two, Nagila Mana Vault, turn three, tutored for Adnons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that.
And I kept a hand with just like a bunch of removal. I turned one day a Seal of Fire so that I could answer Nagila so that other people could interact with it. Because like the one thing is that if he pulls out Nagila so quickly, the odds are that he has Deflecting Swat or Fierce Guardianship somewhere in his hand. So that was like what I did first was before he could get Nagila out to counter this, I put out Seal of Fire so that I could pop it, and that way he wouldn't have free interaction on the stack. I figured I'd really hoped the other two players would have something to help me battle this whole thing. That's sort of like the song and dance of Commander, but that just was not the case.
Especially for seat 4 to be taking that responsibility,
Yeah,
right?
it's tough.
And your version of Shalai and Halar, like, correct me if I'm wrong, like it's not parasitic, but it's not playing Red Elemental Blast, Pyro Blast, any of the red counters that you have access to. Or
No, I am. It's
You
just,
are? Okay.
yeah, I didn't mull to like that to try and like pursue that. I know that like Jordan's line is probably Thassa's Oracle, which is,
you were just trying to step on it with Seal of File.
yeah. I was trying to get something out that he couldn't counter
Got it.
post casting Nagila. So that was my attempt. Unfortunately, didn't go far enough. Jordan cast the Adnaz, and away we went. The game ended.
It was great. And it was just like insane top decks. Like I just drew like the Mana Vault on turn one, everything I needed.
I think
the Adnaz was super easy. I went to 28 life on the Adnaz because I already found Lotus Petal, Demonic Consultation, Tainted Pact, Calling the Weak. So I was able to Calling the Weak, the Dockside I'd use to filter my mana, and then just Tainted Pact, Demonic Consultation, Thoracle, win.
Yeah, you didn't name any bad cards in that pile.
Yeah, no, it was super easy, super good. I will say that was pretty much the only easy game I had all day. Do you have anything else you want to talk about game one?
Nope.
Game two, we obviously broke apart and stuff like that. And I think from there on out, I'll say my record, I went 1-1-3. So I drew 3.
Okay, and we'll get into that later, I think, with one of the guests, but like that is sort of a factor of the tournament structure, not necessarily how the games were playing.
No, not necessarily.
There were some people,
Not
there's the
necessarily.
incentive to play towards draws.
Yes. Yeah. So that is one thing I like, we are talking about here is, like potentials for new tournament ideas or stuff like that. We're not fully dead set on one thing. Like we've only just recently started getting any tournaments with consistency anyway. So, I was like posing the new questions like we do with like Magic cards. It's like, how could we make this better and stuff like that. And I like to ask everybody that, and we'll ask our guests that.
Yeah.
These are things we can actually errata if we get
these
the
are
public
changeable
involved.
things.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. This is how we can actually curate our meta a little better.
Yeah.
And so, right now the popular move is 75 minutes with turns, right? Usually turns is number of active players, that's how many turns there are.
Yep.
Very few people I find agree with that. Experienced CDH grinders, I find that not a lot of them agree with that that whole structure.
Right.
The structure that they want to see more often is they want to see 90 minutes end. Game ends.
Now, is this a structure that Laughing Dragon has used in all of their tournaments thus far?
Currently, yes. I mean, this
Okay.
is a structure we see a lot of tournaments using right now.
This is the general structure, and it's more the community is like, hey, how about these 90-minute rounds?
Yeah, and there are some tournaments that are doing that. You know, that's the great thing is because these tournaments are all, you know, individually run, people get to test different things and try these new things out. But like I was saying, like, we've just kind of gotten to a point where like we've come to a consensus of generally what works pretty well, and we've gotten good at that. And that's what we're seeing these tournaments like repeating and like other people doing the same things. So I just want to see, like, I like to ask, like, what if or what could we change here? You know, what could we run a tournament as with a slightly different structure? Evan said, like, you know, the 90 minutes, no turns. I think that is an interesting move. I think it's a good move. Namely, what we're talking about is the issue we run into is when you get closer to time ending, right, and turns going, or you're getting into turns, there becomes an instant change for a lot of people. Anybody who's in
Mentality.
Yeah. Anybody who's in a position where I'm probably not going to win this game, it instantly becomes, all right, playing to my outs. This is what we do in CDH. I'm playing for the 1 point of drawing versus the 0 of losing.
Yeah,
And
you fight.
So to preface that, like in EDH, in CDH even, there is a strong like cultural prohibition against or taboo against like king making, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and like everything we do in CDH is playing properly, right?
Yep.
Playing to your outs. Anything outside of that is questionable play.
Yeah.
So and so like to reframe, like, if you then have this 75-minute round, then turns, at that point, once you go to turns, it changes the incentive structure away from that.
Well, I will say the even the 90 minutes no turns, there's still going to be issues. There are going to be issues getting close to time running out. There's going to be issues with slow play. Slow play is going to be something you have to police significantly harder than 75 minutes with turns.
Yes.
So there's going to be, it's not an answer for, it's not an end all be all. You know, I guess now that we're on the tangent of and talking about it, one thing I'm personally thinking of and would like to try is changing our point structure. I don't think that 5 for a win, 1 for a draw is maybe the best move. I am not a professional tournament organizer, so I can't like speak to exactly what it is. I'd like to do some tests, but I think you should keep draws and losing on the same playing field. I just think if you can take that incentive away, then all of a sudden you just get to go back to playing CDH, where it is
you
like,
win the game.
I am playing to win the game, right? And then like playing to draw is just playing to lose at that point, right? So anything outside of that,
or even if a draw is just a draw and there's a disincentive to lose, that changes things a little.
Either way,
you know?
exactly right. It's just changing that one little tweak and just taking any leverage or foothold that they have for playing outside of the, what would you call it? The principle of like what we do in CDH.
You need the Pavlovian effect back. You know, people need to be drooling for the win.
Yeah.
People aren't drooling.
Right. They're because we're being additionally incentivized in a different direction at a certain point in these games.
Yeah.
I went 1-1 and 3 and I got into top 16 because I drew 3 games, right? Like there is something wrong with that. Like I think you should have to have a more positive record to get into a semifinal match.
For sure, it feels better if the top 16 is all people who got there by winning,
right?
You know, not by math.
Yeah.
And like, just so you know, like we have all the deck lists and standings right in front of me. I got in on 8 points, right, at 15th. One homie got in on 16th place. He got in on 7, but there were 3 other people, Evan included, tied on 7.
Yeah, you know, and then it comes to tiebreakers, which like lends to my record a little bit and just kind of like helps the discussion more. Is I went 1-2-2. The only 2 games I lost were to literally nuclear bombs going off in the game, where Jordan just had unimpeded ad nos that just won the game, and the other game that I lost was an Ob Nixilis deck that just had the God Hand. It was a turn 1 Ob Nixilis into a Cataract Parasite, and then turn 2 a Wheel of Fortune that let them see 28 more cards, including all of their free mana, and then just spun out and all will be wand us, and that was the end of the game. So like there were games that the 2 games I lost, I didn't even get a chance to compete in. And then the other 3 games were all like games where I presented. I was the one drooling for the win. Like I wanted it. I know how valuable it is. And just getting 1 is not enough. Right. And that's like, I think the mentality that everyone should be moving forward with is the proof in the pudding is that I'm guilty of throughout the day knowing that 1-2-2 could get me in, right?
Yeah.
So like
Totally.
7 points can get you in via tiebreakers just based on what happens throughout the rest of the day to other people. So there were in the back of my head, I was just like, I just need one. I just need one. I just need one. The mentality has to shift for all players to be more competitive to say, no, I need two.
Right.
I need two.
I mean, you were even pitching that idea of like a crazy tournament where it's a single elimination kind of tournament, right?
Yeah.
It goes really fast.
Yep. It's like literally you lose, you're done.
100%. And like
$15 buy-in, top prize the guy's cradle.
Ooh, I don't know. That feels kind of bad because, the experience you had, you get RNG'd out and someone turn ones and turn 0 wins and you just get $15 to not even play.
That's the nature of the beast. I hate to say it. But
I mean,
it's why it's a experiment.
We like to theorize on like potentials. For
Two
this.
elimination tournament.
Yeah, maybe exactly.
Yeah, we talked about that too because we didn't know if we could get 64 players. So like getting 48, if you got 48, you could actually like do a double elimination.
Yeah, you'd go to a losers bracket and have
You
them
could work
play,
your
and
way
then-
back up.
Yeah.
Anyway, the games were great. I think Shaline Halar, I might retire it for a minute. The deck still presents win cons, but the one thing that I noticed today, and it really stuck with me in the following days, was if you want to win games more consistently, you need to be able to do it when it's not your turn.
Yeah, and Naya is not going to do that.
Nope.
A lot of the time. I mean, you have some Academy Rector lines, right, that can do it on the opponent's turn.
Yeah, but not even in my deck. Like,
you took that out. Yeah.
No, yeah. So I don't have those options. It's basically just waiting till it comes around to my turn. Hopefully, I've created an environment where I can just fire off, my 2-card combo and win the game. But I can see now more than ever that isn't going to lead to a lot of success moving forward. Even though the deck does have a decent, win percentage and it does like help me place higher in tournaments. I do need something that can win when someone else is trying to win.
I would say this was a very good tournament, and by that I mean there was a lot of good players and good decks, and there was a lot of table policing. There was a lot of responsible play.
Yeah.
In pretty much every game. Like I said, that first game was super fast. Every other game was 2 turns, like what 70 minutes, 5 minutes plus another 30 minutes into turns. Like every single one of these games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, like, sometimes just holding a win in hand doesn't get you there. A lot of the times, actually, I would say that.
Yeah.
Like Evan said, he's presenting wins in every one of these games. I was doing the same thing. Guy was saying he's doing the same thing at this very same tournament. That doesn't matter enough anymore because there is enough interaction, because there is enough good players and everybody on these like 4 or 5 color lists. A lot of times you're just going to get stopped. So
the edge is in timing now, not just in having to win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say, relative to what you're saying, Evan, like in the top 4 at this tournament, Yeva was one of the decks, which is your like classic good parasitic deck. But even then, the nature of Yeva is you get to play on the other player's turn.
You get to play on your player's turn. Yeah, and actually I will say, shout out to this Yeva player, Jake. I played against him twice. He was a very good player. Great
to talk to.
And, that's an unusual Yeva list, I feel like. I'm not an expert on it, but I do look at those lists a lot, and I'm seeing like a pretty big variation in that creature list.
Yeah, we should maybe get him on here to talk about it because this is a really cool list, and he whomped us with it. So
totally.
Shout out.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a lot of validity to like being able to play around timing. We see Atlas, who won this tournament. We've talked about him a ton.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to win at instant speed on top of any type of thing really does pivot him towards higher win rates. The other thing I would say I noticed in this tournament was the prevalence of creatures and how good creatures are. Last week, right, in our showered thoughts, we talked about ETBs and how absolutely busted they are.
Yep.
Because it's already resolved by the time it's on the battlefield. Creatures are hard to interact with, and those are abusable abilities. Creatures are absolutely everywhere in the SeaEDH meta right now. Either they're stacks pieces, they're win conditions, they're value engines, they're creatures. They're all creatures now.
Almost every win con goes through a creature.
And
almost always through an ETB on a creature.
I'm excited to see Modern Horizons 3 because I think it's going to introduce some things to like interact with that meta that's prevailing everywhere.
This is actually even what stemmed that ETB conversation was exactly this. Tordith on Discord talking about the lack of creature interaction, right?
On the Shower Thoughts channel, yeah.
Yeah, the lack of creature interaction. Like we've identified that Dress Down is great, and after this tournament, holy shit, I want it in every list I ever play.
It literally stopped me from winning the game.
I think Subtlety deserves a hard look.
Subtlety. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, the blue incarnation from
free.
MH2.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
March of Swirling Mists, I'm putting back in list
Great
now.
card, yeah.
Holy God, it's
I mean,
a good card.
that phases creatures out, but
Sometimes
can
it's
cheat
only
on
for that
cost.
turn.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's only for that one thing you need to stop, and because that's just like, say for this Yeva deck, right? There's 6 creatures out. I have 1 kill spell. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that point. And then if you're a blue player and you have a Swan Song in hand, you have no point of interaction in this entire game. So
do you feel like Stern Scolding is
100%.
a little stronger after this tournament? Is that now auto include maybe?
Honestly, it was kind of auto include for me beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah, people. I don't think the community is quite behind it yet, even though the concern for creatures is growing.
I know personally, I'm going to continue playing the decks I like to play, which are usually turbo leaning.
Yeah.
I need creature interaction. It is the one thing I can fight on the stack like a motherfucker, but I cannot stop creature decks from winning.
Once it lands.
They'll just walk all over me, and I will just hold 7 cards in hand and not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my takeaway. The other thing is I love playing the Gila. This deck is super fun. I love the no bad cards list, but being that as Najila, you are threat assessed immediately when you flip your command over.
This community hates Najila.
It is so funny, bro. Like, it happened at least 2 different tables and 2 different games. I would flip my commander over and people would just be like, oh no. But I swear to God, it was at a table with Atraxa, new Atraxa, Tivit, and Blue Farm. And I'm just like, how am I the boogeyman at this table?
I mean,
feel like we're...
That also comes down to timing because you're going to be... Najila has the ability to come down before all those guys most of the time and
True.
run away with the game first.
True. I mean, I do get that. But it was funny to me that it's like we're all playing pretty much the same deck at like the same S tier level.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny just like that there's still that perception of like a boogeyman in the format. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Overall, the experience of the tournament was positive. I think we learned a lot about just like the community, the meta, how we want to move forward as players, and
totally just playing with good players and tons of great gameplay is inspiring.
Yeah,
you get better at the game by losing to better players.
100%, which I did a lot of.
Yeah,
yeah, and you, the listeners, are actually going to get a pretty unique perspective here because we're bringing on 3 players from the tournament. We have Tordeth, and we have Atlas, who actually won the tournament, and
Tyler Wood.
Yeah,
so Tordeth, aka Justin Pack, who is a Pepperhead, shout out. He got 3rd playing Rocco. Atlas got 1st playing Kenrith, of course. And Tyler Wood got 7th playing Atraxa. He was the Atraxa I played against.
Yeah, and they're all great players, and they're all incredibly enthusiastic about their decks and passionate about the game. So I'm excited to hear how these interviews unfold. I'm actually going to hop off the air here to make sure that this episode doesn't go for 2 hours, and Jordan can just focus in on asking these crucial interview questions. Jordan, let's kick it off.
Tyler, we've met a few times, but you have not met, I believe, Chris yet. Chris is the 3rd Moxstar.
Hello.
Okay. Well, what's up, Chris?
What's up? Yeah. I'm just looking at your Atraxa list that you ran in Fall Brawl. This is a hot list.
I think so.
No, we've just been looking through it for the last few minutes. It's a spicy list, dude. It looks good. God damn. This is the content so far.
Guys.
Yeah. Just us looking at the list and scrolling through and being amazed by it. I am actually, this is not relevant to anything. You do, I think, I'm going to ask about the individual choices of card arts.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, you're really into some of these recent arts, like the Borderless Soul Ring. You don't see that a lot in lists. And running the new Toxic Deluge, which is also my favorite printing in the card from the Lord of the Rings set.
All right, dude. Well, today we are talking about a tournament that we all happened to play pretty recently called Fall Brawl.
Yeah, it was a good time. I was very impressed with the turnout. It did feel like mid-range winter at this tournament, but as a mid-range player, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, thriving in the mid-range, the mid-game. As a turbo player, it was a little tough. I won't lie.
Yeah, there more often than not, I've noticed a lot of these like major CEDH full proxy tournaments are pretty turbo-y. Everyone gets to play with the Wheel of Fortune LED combo, and so I noticed like Tess takes over a lot, and Silas Rogg takes over a lot. But this tournament, I think, had like 3 dedicated turbo lists, like 2 stacks lists, and everyone else was just trying to draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, that was definitely the vibe. I think, we were just talking about it, like the amount of draws or just extremely long games because of heavy interaction, the perfect stacks pieces, the perfect answer, the irresponsible play, it has led to very long games.
I always say paying for Ristic adds a minute to your game, so that's kind of on them if they want to pay for it.
Yeah, that's fair. So, with this meta, what were you maybe surprised by when you went in? What did you see at this tournament?
At this tournament specifically, the big thing for me was seeing a lot of the newer cards getting used like really optimally. So like Talion kind of was like the star of the show for like a ton of decks. Anything
Yes.
in Dimir was on Talion, and it looked very spicy to see what numbers people were picking. I mean, everyone pretty much picked between 1 or 2, but there were a couple scenarios where like 3 got really like popular. And the
Interesting.
politics around this card is also very interesting because not only is it a card draw engine, it's a stacks piece. You can't go infinite if you have to cast Dockside a bunch, or you cannot go infinite through your Tidespout Tyrant loop or your Hullbreaker Horror loop if it's on 1. So there was a lot of debate at every table every time this got cast to see what number people were gonna use. And then obviously the One Ring took over this tournament.
100%.
It almost felt like everyone was racing to resolve theirs first. But other than that, this tournament just was very mid-rangey and interesting. And there was a very cool Najeela list I was kind of jealous of, but
Was it Jordan's or
it was Jordan's.
What?
Anytime someone plays Turbo Najeela, I'm like, you are a better person than I, because
Oh, snap.
that is literally just like, if someone has removal on turn 2, you don't win the game. But if no one has removal on turn 2, you win the game.
Well,
Bro,
I think you figured out Jordan's mindset just in.
Dude, oh my God. We haven't even covered this. We just kind of did a little bit of recording our takes from the tournament and stuff like that. I didn't even go over my final game, which I don't even think I talked to you about last night or that night. It was so ridiculous, but I was going 5th or 4th in the last game, or in the semis, and I had to mull to 5. Every time I mulled to 6, there was no lander, so I forced a 5. And I was able to, like exactly you said, try to win on turn 2. I attempted Thoracle, Demonic Consultation, no cards left in hand, turn 2. I was like, you guys either have it or you don't have it right now. And it took each single player, all 3 of them had a piece of interaction that was required to stop me.
Disgusting.
But they had
Disgusting.
it. But they had it. It's exactly what you said. You're either going to win that game or you're going to lose that game. But that game, for me, did not go 45 minutes into turns. It was about 10 minutes and I packed my shit up.
Yeah, and like that's kind of what I think like Turbo is slowly going to have to fade out. And I'm sorry to say it, Jordan, but with the very, very high quality of interaction in the game now, especially like turn 0 interaction, all the forces, endurance, Noxious Revival, one of my favorite pet green cards.
That's what actually
Turn
stopped
the
me.
Earth.
Turn the Earth
Yeah.
is so good, yeah.
So good. But just because the quality gets so high with the interaction, that I think if you are sitting down at a table and it's a 3v1, 2 of those people are going to mulligan for turn 0 interaction, because so many decks are built around turn 0, turn 1, turn 2 interaction.
Yeah, no, I agree. I am trying to figure my way through this mid-range winter, as you're saying. I'm not as much of a mid-range player, so figuring out how to succeed in that is a good challenge.
Best of luck to you.
Thanks,
I
dog.
also was a Turbo player when I first started out with SeaEDH, and then just got on the mid-range train really early on because I stink at Turbo strategy, so I had to find something different.
Have you been on Atraxa since they were spoiled, or have you gone through some other mid-range commanders to get here?
Okay, that's a great question. So in my heart of hearts, I will always be a Thrasios player. He is my son. I love him more than I love most people in my life. I have done Thrasios plus X in every variation. If the card has said partner, I have paired it with Thrasios just to try it.
What's your
So I
favorite
started.
partner?
My favorite partner as of right now is Bruce Tarl. I
Okay.
am our LGS's Dawn Waker player,
Okay.
and I absolutely love any deck that makes infinite mana. That's kind of my thing. Just if I can go, I'm gonna make an infinite amount of something. I feel really good.
I mean, it feels great when you do it. I believe it.
Yeah, and so I was on Kinnan, and then budget started getting better, and then I just
Mhm.
went Kinnan into Thrasios Crom into Thrasios Bruce Tarl, and I had to switch off of it because that deck will win the game. It will 100% to win the game. Every turn that passes by, I get a percentage increase on if I'm going to win that game. I as a Thrasios deck, as I generate more mana, I will just draw more cards, and more cards equals a win. But in tournament play, especially 75-minute going into turns, I can't always turn that corner as effectively, especially against other mid-range lists. Because even though if I believe I can mid-range better than any other mid-range list, I can't always turn the corner before it gets to a draw. And so I went on Atraxa because it does the exact same thing, but because you're in black, you do get more explosive turns and you can just jam the win. Like once you're able to get like one demonic tutor or one vamp tutor. But it's all about just developing that window before you get there. And Dawn Waker took too long to develop that window.
So, for an opening hand, what are you looking for out of this list?
In this list, the way I have it built right now, I'm either looking for I really need to stick to 7 because
Mm-hmm.
until Atraxa comes down, I'm not really drawing that many cards. And like half of my list exists to make mana. So I either need like 2 stacks pieces that I can cast, anything with 4 or more lands, or anything that gets me into an early draw engine that I don't think is going to get killed or countered. So like a turn 1 Ristic is really sick, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the time, especially being like the dirty Atraxa player, I have to be able to like guarantees it sticks. But if I can get like a 1 ring down, I actually just cut Eldritch Evolution for Talion. If I can get a Talion down or a Lotho or anything that like makes passive mana, I will eventually get there. But if I can't get to any of that, I have to mulligan. And
Mm-hmm.
then anything 6 or under, if it has 3 lands, it's keepable.
Are you so looking at your list? You're on 27 lands. You don't have a high density of mana rocks. You're really relying on those dorks to sort of ramp up into Atraxa. Are you worried about the Bowmaster meta?
I am super worried about Bowmaster meta, but something I love to say all the time is when you can't run good cards, run your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I have learned how to efficiently get the Bowmaster points everywhere else because this is definitely a sandbag until you're willing to win kind of deck. It's unironically why I'm on planes as many planeswalkers as I am. A lot of the Atraxa lists I've seen on like a lot of SeaEDH Reddits are not on any planeswalkers except Teferi, but I literally play planeswalkers just so your Bowmasters has something else to shoot.
Oh, okay.
It's
I like that. That's
it
spicy.
yeah, it also is like one more permanent type to grab off of the Atraxa ETB.
Mm-hmm.
But I've really struggled like when I first was brewing the list, making sure people weren't bonking my dorks. But now that I've learned that I can't really like run out a bunch of dorks early game and I have to jam like stacks pieces or something else that's scarier, I'm then able to play the dorks because I don't need to cast the dorks until the turn before I want to cast Atraxa a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then passive land drops and then rocks kind of will get me there. Luris has been like an absolute haymaker in the list because you can just go like turn 1 dork, turn 2 Luris, and then turn 3 like Lotus Petal, or if you get like the God Hand, you're able to go like Jeweled Lotus, and then jam the Atraxa.
Love it. Love to see it. Yeah, no, I that's interesting.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I would never thought about playing Planeswalkers to like divert the attention and stuff like that. I just loved that.
No, that's a brilliant move.
Yeah,
Like,
it is, and I just really liked that you were on Ashiok Narset because nobody ever plays Ashiok and Narset other than me. So.
Yeah, no. Oh my God. Ashiok Dream Render is an excellent Planeswalker. I feel like if you're in Dimir, there's no reason not to play it.
Nobody plays it.
It has 2 relevant abilities. Like it
hates on 2 different like axes that most decks win with.
Yeah, it turns off searching opponent searching their libraries, and it removes opponent's graveyards. Turns off breach.
Yeah, and it's 1 dark ritual away.
Yeah, it's a good card.
Sorry. Side note on Ashiok,
Yeah.
we really like it apparently.
I mean, this is my first time ever being like hot on it in a list. It always felt like the 101st card in a lot of the lists that I like to play.
That's fair.
But yeah, in this list, it's been a house because I'm looking for as many asymmetrical stacks pieces as possible. Like the only asymmetrical stacks piece I feel like I'm not on that would be like mildly playable would be like Lavinia, because Linvala is too much mana. But I feel like that card King makes a lot of the time because someone's got a Force of Will or a Force of Vigor, and then they can't cast it, and then you lose the game.
Yeah, I've run into that playstyle a bunch of times. Usually the Force of Will player. So we've talked about this sick ass deck. I kind of want to talk about the tournament itself. What were your vibes on? I mean, I think Marcus runs a great tournament, and I think this one was the best out of the 3 so far, just super smooth. But as far as like tournament structure, what are your thoughts? Right now, we're kind of stuck in a world where we see a lot of 75 minutes with turns. Do you think that is the move? Do you think there is, adjustments that we should make, maybe promoting healthier gameplay in the future? What are your thoughts?
I mean, because you did mention already that like, the choice of deck has pivoted to be playing around that tournament structure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah, I love this question. I feel like 75 minutes with turns is really good, but I think there are some alternatives that don't get as much as attention that maybe I'm probably really biased as a Staxier mid-ranger player, but I have really enjoyed 90 minutes, no turns. The 3 big reasons on why I really prefer that structure is in 75 minutes with turns, people don't take the clock seriously until the last 5 minutes.
So true.
Like, at the end of the day, I'm going to get my turns, right? I'm going to get my like one last go for it. So I'm willing to stall. I'm willing to wait. And more importantly, other people aren't on their opponents about time because they think the exact same way. But like as a mid-range player who, I'm doing land pass, it's really frustrating to see people like take a bunch of time on their turn not taking game actions because they don't actually think the clock matters. But with 90 minutes, they every second you eat takes from the group clock, and there is no guaranteed communal like resource at the very end. And I think that would make people play tighter and quicker. The second reason I think 90 minutes with no turns is really nice is I also think the turns kind of meta is really toxic. Is people will just generate, and I think it's a part of the reason we're in the mid-range winter, is they're just going to generate as much value as possible, especially if you can. People think it's better to be turn 0. I think it's actually better to be turn 3 in like the turns meta. Is the person who got turn 0 is going to try, and everyone knows they're going to try and win on their very last turn. So the turn 1 player holds all the interaction, the turn 2 player holds the interaction, or the turn 2 player has to go for it, and then everyone blows their interaction on the turn 2 player who got to just develop as many resources as possible and then go for it on their last turn. And then the turn 3 player just gets to be the lucky one with player 4 who has all of the cards in their hand that win the game and no interaction. And so then they just get to win the game. That's at least what I've noticed. And then the third reason is 90 minutes, no turns is the pod that goes to turns and is 45 minutes into turns and then has to eat lunch and gets 2 minutes to run out, grab a couple peanuts, wolf them down, and then play in their third pod really sucks.
We've interviewed 2 people about this so far, and you're the second person to mention it.
Yeah, 100%.
Specifically that issue. Yeah.
It sucks. It's a mental thing.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is not only does it suck to go 45 minutes into pod 2 and lose maybe or draw, you then have to go straight into game 3 with no lunch while your opponents got to sit there for an hour, eat lunch, shoot the shit and feel good about themselves.
Yeah, no, it's competitive disadvantage essentially.
Yeah, no, like, and that's not even mentioning like if you get to top 16, you're still looking at 4 more games potentially with no breaks in between before you get a break again. Yeah, it was a long day. I noticed that. I think it's with a mix of things, and exactly kind of how you were describing that play style at the very end of 75 minutes with turns. It is just like the pivot becomes, if you can't win, it seems to just be fight for that draw, and then all of a sudden that is like a 45-minute mini game we're playing at the end of this thing, where I'm not convinced it's actually saving us any more time versus if we can't win at 90 minutes, just call it. Like I like that. I think it saves me a little mental capacity going at like 5 or 6 games in a day. Like I would not mind that little break.
I mean, especially as the Shalai and Halar player probably would absolutely love not to go into turns and then everyone spends 20 minutes on each of their turns trying to navigate what stacks piece can I remove without losing the game to the person to my right, but what stacks piece do I need to remove so I can win right now. It feels really toxic, just because, you spend, 90 minutes is only 25 more minutes or 15 more minutes than 75-minute turns, but turns go into on average like 30 minutes. So it's like, we're not only wasting time, we're creating a TEDH environment that isn't actually determining who is the better player. It's just who has the most cards by the time they get into turns.
It's almost like how on Arena there's like decks that only exist for the latter kind, or you can create a competitive advantage because of the environment.
Yeah. Absolutely, just taking advantage of the environment. So as much as possible, I think in like a tournament organizer, like thinking cap, it's like what could you do pull away to just promote the healthiest environment for a tournament setting. I do think that 90 minutes would be a really nice thing to try moving forward.
I'm trying to get Gabby to do at her tournaments 90 minutes, no turns, but I don't think, I think there are enough people who still think 75 minutes with turns is fine, but I think it only takes once for someone to be in that pod where they get no lunch break to be like, no, 90-minute I'm hungry. I want my Subway sandwich, please.
Yeah, 100%. Like I can't tell you how many of these I've been to where I did not eat enough for the day. And by game 4 or 5, you just feel awful. You're not having a good day anymore. Yeah. Okay. Well, Word, I got more questions for you right now. And by that, I mean, I probably have about 1 left.
That is more, technically.
It is more, but I said questions.
I have a question for Jordan at the end of this, if that's all right.
How about you just go in right now? Spice it up. What you got for me?
You had the opportunity to play against me.
Yeah.
And as someone who is always trying to get better at the game, I just would like to ask, gameplay wise, maybe not so much in card selection and deck building, but more about the gameplay and the politics. What were your thoughts, feelings, and opinions about the way I play SeaEDH?
Whoa, that is a big old question to drop on me. I love it. Well, one, I think you're a very good player, and I think you're a very skilled political player. I've noticed multiple times that you've had a kind of an advantage in that category. Yeah, dude, I don't know. I mean, before we hopped on here, we were all talking about how all 3 of you, the people who are interviewing for this, are just definitely better players than us. So it feels weird critiquing your gameplay. I think you politic exceptionally well. Like that game that we played together, right? It was a tough game where the blue farm player going first, essentially just on curve, turn 1, Timna, turn 2, Ristic Study, which I had to Force of Will, turn 3 was like Talion Dothy, turn 4 was the One Ring, just like the most crazy curve you're fighting against, right? So I think in most of these, it's just like who is the biggest threat at any given like millisecond of time passing. And And I don't know. I think you did a really good job kind of bouncing back and forth, keeping like them in check, keeping me in check, because the other player was Tivit, right? So it's not like you really get any breathing room on a turn.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, I appreciate that. And I guess my follow-up question is that Najila play. I feel like we have to go over it to honor kind of like you as a player.
Yeah,
But
please dress me down.
the Tivit player had 3/1/1 spirits from my Forbidden Orchard and the Blue Farms Forbidden Orchard, and you made the most interesting play that like took me a second to analyze and figure out. But you swung the Najila at the Tivit player with the 3/1/1s and the 1/1 that was going at the 1/1. You had no good swings on the Tivit or on the Blue Farm player because they had all of their creatures up. They had Crom at that point, but I was completely open, and I couldn't pass priority until I went, why would you swing there and not at me, who is completely open?
Well, you were
And
you were completely open. You had your army that you had amassed from the Orcish Bowmasters, so you had a
that's
single
what it was.
target.
I had a 5/5.
You had a single target. So your question was then like, if you are which you called out to the table as this was like on the stack essentially was like, I think I have him on single target removal, right? Because you think I'm swinging, being able to bounce one token or kill one token saves my Najila, so I'm fine there. But you're like, I don't understand why he wouldn't use it on my army and then guarantee the swing for Najila. And essentially it was just the threat assessment of, I can still get through and get what I need off of killing the token, and I would rather not kill your army because we're staring down Blue Farm, and I'd rather you start punching Blue Farm in the face for like 5+ right there. With the thought of like, if Najila sticks around with that resolution, I'll have at least a token or something to start chumping because you don't have trample. So I would start from that turn on. I would start leaving one up. Not how it really ended up shaking out, but that was the thinking at least.
Okay, see that's why I asked the follow-up question is I was like, why would you ever leave me unswung there when you had the single target removal? But yes, having a 5/5 that beats any creature that Blue Farm is gonna play makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it was just like we were talking. That was a very tough game. I don't know, or at least like for me, it was like as like the threat assessment at that table. Like I said, it was Blue Farm, me on Najila, you on Atraxa, and then Tivit. It's like it's just anybody at any moment is going to do something.
Which round was this?
This was the 5th game of Swiss, going like last one before finals.
Got it.
Or semis. And so right at that point, like I had just described the Blue Farm player, Alex. I had fully, my threat at that point was Alex. Like I'm sure you were sandbagging for the whole Atraxa game plan, but in my head that was like 2 turns from now, and I was not really generating value to any degree that you or Blue Farm was, so I really needed to rely on like essentially you picking on them with me.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. Okay. I really didn't see that. I guess I was too focused on just having like what felt like the ultimate soul read on what was going on. And then I
mean, you had me dead to rights as far as the read, 100%.
Yeah. And then I was able to convince the Tivit player to chump block all 3 tokens
and kill my Najila. Yeah, that was pretty sick. Yeah, no, that was really funny that you called me out like that. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, that was like just an example of one of those really good games where just like so much back and forth, so much threat at the table, just any moment something could happen. So this kind of brings me into my next question, and I kind of already have my own thought of this. But Tyler, how do you see yourself as a player? Like, what is the spark that you think you have that makes you as good as you are? Like, in what facet of this big ass game we play, where do you think you shine? Is it in the deck building process? Is it, we were just discussing threat assessment? Is it politics? Where's that little spark for you?
I would like to think I'm a pretty good deck builder, and I spend more time deck building than playing. But if I had to pick a single thing, I would definitely say it's politicking. I think I am very good at acknowledging what you need as my opponent to win the game, and I can figure out how can I get you to do what you think is best for you while that pushes my game plan even further without you knowing it, which is the essence of good SeaEDH politics, is getting someone to do something that is good for them, because they're not going to do it if it's not good for them. good for them, but still advances my game plan more. So like Dranith Magistrate is the perfect example of a political piece. You know, if I'm player C and player A and B are arguing over who wants to remove the Dranith Magistrate, I always ask myself first, is my commander better than your commander, or are you on breach? But for the sake of this example, we won't go over that. But in this list, Atraxa, I always want the Dranith Magistrate gone. Because if I'm able to resolve the Atraxa, though I will never win off of one Atraxa ETB, it always guarantees that I get one more turn, which is really nice. And that's all I'm thinking about with an Atraxa ETB. So if I can convince player A to remove player B's Dranith Magistrate, and their commander isn't better than Atraxa, it's a net positive for me if I then get to play the Atraxa, even if it's like a couple turns down the road. It's like, okay, you get a Thrasios for an extra turn and you get to draw 3 cards. I'm going to resolve this Atraxa, and then I'm going to have a 7/7 Death Touch Beater. And that's just really how I view the game, is just trying to figure out how can I get my opponents to advance their game plan while still advancing my own game plan. But also, I think a big part of politics is like you have to be fun. You have to be nice. Like I care at the end of the day, like obviously, especially at a tournament, I want to win, but this is a game and I want to have fun. I want to make sure everyone at the table is also having fun. I want to crack jokes. I want to make sure that people feel like their deck is getting to do the thing. And I've noticed the more I can make someone smile and laugh, the more I can get them to do the things I want, which sounds like an awful
That
thing
sounds
to say,
really fucked up, dude.
but it's a game. It's a game. It's part of the game.
No, you're not wrong. I love that. That's awesome. And I totally agree. I think you definitely shine in that category. Yeah, so as far as like threat assessment, as far as commander, how do you feel your commander Atraxa is right now? Because I will say I went to about 4 of those games and just flipping over Najila, it was at the table, no matter what else was being played at the table. Are you finding something similar with Atraxa?
Sorta, kinda. I think people drastically overestimate how good the card Atraxa is.
I do agree with that. People were just very scared of you when you're mana away from Atraxa.
Yeah, if I got to 9 mana, people started losing their minds, which I kind of get. Like I just said, it's the whole like one Atraxa ETB will never win me the card, but it always guarantees my next turn, and then I have an Atraxa, which is never good for the table. But I also don't really run into that problem all too often. I am on Crop Rot, Delighted Halfling, and Cavern of Souls. So a lot of the time, like the only way to deal with the Atraxa is to counter it. And I try really, really hard to cast it so early that using an early turn counter spell is just losing to the turbo player or the faster mid-range list, or it's just uncounterable. Because unironically, when I have an Atraxa on the board, I want it anywhere else. I want it in my graveyard so I can reanimate it. I want it in the command zone so I can cast it again. And that's the other piece I think people don't realize, is removing the Atraxa is always better for the Atraxa player, because the best text on that card is the ETB. Like the 7/7 beater is a political piece I try and use to be like, if you do that, I'm going to hit you with a 7/7. But then people are like, nope, I'm just going to swords it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to draw 7 life and get another ETB. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time about how good ETBs are and how busted creatures are right now in the meta, how little limited interaction there is for them. And I mean, this is just the greatest ETB on a creature that's ever existed.
That and Dockside Extortion.
That and Dockside, yeah. Those two are pretty goddamn good.
They had to take that red pip off of Atraxa so you can't play them together.
Yeah, that's the only thing keeping this in check right now.
Well, not really. I'm on Fimage and Phyrexian Metamorph. I normally have a Dockside Extortionist.
Yeah, that's actually fair.
And it's really dumb because like anytime someone has a Dockside, in our like play group that I play with a lot, they're always like, we need to get rid of it. Someone swords it now.
Yeah, get rid of this.
I don't loop with it. And they're like, no, but the Atraxa player does.
Dude, that's hilarious. I love that. Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show, dude. What's the next tournament we're gonna find you at? What's up next for you?
I don't really know. I limit myself to 1 tournament a month because I burn out really quick if all I'm doing is thinking about TEDH. But I think
So
November
healthy.
4th, Gabby's tournament, because that's my home shop. That'll probably be my November tournament for the month.
Are you going to stay on Atraxa for that tournament, or are you thinking about
Yeah, I
anything
think-
else?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stay on Atraxa till probably till the end of the year, like through December and January. I'm still reteching this list. There are a lot of cards that I felt were dead at this tournament. Like this is my first real tournament with it. So I've got a lot more to do, and I hope to see you guys some more and with some hot new stuff. Because
How many spots do you think are going to open up?
Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, I talked over you. Sorry. How many spots do you think are going to open up in this deck list?
I'm looking for 3. I think I might only get 2. I want to add a pseudo reanimator package in. I want to add Entomb, Consecrated Sphinx, and Persist. Because the only legendary targets are Elish Nord, Mother of Machines, and Talion. And the best creature in the list that isn't Atraxa, Tidespout Tyrant, is non-legendary.
Love it. Love those cards. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Super excited. And would love to get more games against you, dude. Maybe we can get you on a gameplay episode coming up here.
I would love that. I play a lot with the same 9 people. And so getting out there, I know I should set up Spell Table, but maybe this will be the encouragement to get me on more webcam SeaEDH.
Yeah, we can get you webcam, or we can even get you out here in Seattle and come into the studio.
Even better, in-person Magic is the best way to play it.
Big agree with you. All right, dude. Thank you so much for hopping on. It's been great chatting with you, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you guys are phenomenal interviewers. I really appreciate the kindness. You really made me feel invited.
Well, you're a great interview subject.
You are a great interviewee, 100%, dude.
Oh, thanks, guys.
You crushed it, man.
All right, you guys have a wonderful night.
All right, you too.
Likewise.
Thanks, Tyler.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to Tyler for coming on the show. It was a great interview to reflect on and listen to. If you're excited to listen to the interviews by Justin and Atlas, you can find those on next week's episode. They got to run a little long, so we're splitting this up into a 2-part series. If you're excited to hear Justin reflect on his 3rd place finish or to hear about Atlas winning the entire thing, you can find that next week. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by following us on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell for more notifications. Find us on all major podcasting platforms. Leave a 5-star review. It'd be great for helping more people find the show. And you can support us on Patreon by becoming a supporter and becoming an official Pepperhead and supporting the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the Moxstars Podcast. We'll see you next week.